Hello and welcome to today's Bitrix24 webinar, Perfect Project Management. Thank you for joining today. Okay, so we'll just go through some introductions. So my name's Sam Connor. I'm part of the sales engineer team here at Interface, and we're Bitrix24 Gold partners. So we specialize in the Bitrix24 software. And we're based in the UK, the US, and Hong Kong. So we offer a full range of services to help your business with Bitrix24. So starting off, we can provide pre-sales support, so we can help to evaluate your requirements, or if you're an existing Bitrix customer, we can help with any implementation or integration work if you want to get more functionality out of your Bitrix24 system. If you're interested in the self-hosted edition, we can provide our hosting service for you. And then we provide ongoing dedicated support and advanced training to really help you get the most value out of the Bitrix24 application. Okay, so in today's webinar, we're going to be focusing on the project management features of Bitrix. But first of all, if you're brand new to understanding Bitrix, you want to know a bit more about what the actual system encompasses. So Bitrix24 is essentially a collaboration suite of well in excess now of 35 different tools that you can use to help you to manage your business. Now, there are over 12 million customers now around the world that use the Bitrix24 system, and the system it's available in two different editions. So we have the Bitrix Cloud system, and we also have the Bitrix self-hosted solution. And in terms of pricing, prices start from approximately $49 per month for a cloud-based system. And for a self-hosted edition, you're looking, if you're starting at the Business 50 package, that would cost $2,990 in the first year. And then in year two and ongoing annually, you need to budget for the renewal on the self-hosted, which is approximately 25% of the license fee. Okay, so today's webinar, Perfect Project Management, let's really now focus in on the project management tools available inside Bitrix24. I think it's important, as we can see on this slide, first of all, just to understand actually why you should use Bitrix24 for projects. It may be if you're an existing Bitrix user, there's other areas such as the CRM system that you might be using heavily. It's really important to really encompass other modules such as project management into your Bitrix system so you can start to get even more value out of the product. So first of all, why we should use Bitrix for projects, you can use project work groups. So for every single project that you run, you're able to encompass all of that information, tasks, whether it's documents, calendars and meetings. All of that information can be secured in its own private area of the Bitrix24 system. And it has a really powerful task management tool. So inside here, what we can do is manage all of the different tasks associated to that project, and it's stored in a nice centralized area, and we can even automate actions at different stages of the tasks. So we'll see how those automations come into play as well. And that brings us on quite nicely there to project automation. So we'll see as well how we can actually automate the creation of a project in the system. So this can save time rather than having to manually create the projects and invite people in. With Bitrix, we have the power to automatically create those projects. And then we'll look at some of the workload management tools as well. So we'll see how we can actually evaluate who has capacity to be able to manage future tasks within new projects that we're working on. And then we'll take a look at the Gantt chart and reporting tools. So we can create reports based on the information that we have inside our Bitrix system. And then we'll take a look at external users, which is a really nice tool. So when you're working on your projects, if you wanted to invite your external users or clients into the system, it does have the capability to feed other users such as clients, into your projects. And as we go through the webinar today, if you have any questions, please do add them into the chat box on Zoom or through LinkedIn, and we can run through those questions during today's intervals. Okay, so first of all, then let's now go into our Bitrix system. And what we'll do first of all is create a new project. So we'll go through the step-by-step process of how we can create a new project in the system. And then we'll take a look at a live project with the functionality of the Bitrix24 project management tools. So let's now go into our Bitrix system. Okay, so we've just come into our Bitrix24 system. So first of all, when you are in your Bitrix system, if you want to see all of the projects that you currently are able to access, what we need to do is on the left-hand menu here, we just want to go into our work groups section. And then this will open up the work groups and projects area. So inside here, I can now see all of the projects that I have access to. Or you could also see an invite button. So if you don't have access, but you want to be invited, you can request the invite to go into the project. You'd be able to click on the invite button here as well. Now I'm an administrator on this page here. So what I can do is I can actually customize this work groups and projects page. So inside here, I can turn on different pieces of information that you might want to show on the actual project. So let's say you might want to know what type of privacy type for the project. You might want to know actually when the project was created on. I can customize the front UI here so I can see every single piece of information about that project. So it depends exactly what information you want to show here. You can keep it as clean, or you could have as much information there for your users as you require. And you also at the top here have a filtering tool. So if you wanted to be able to drill down into a certain project, if you've got lots of projects here, you can use the filtering tool to easily navigate and search to find that project inside the system. Okay, so that's a look at our existing projects, and we'll go into one of those projects shortly. But what we'll do first of all is let's take a look at actually how we can create a new project manually inside the system here. So the area we want to do this is if we click on the create button here, this will now open up our project area. Now, one thing we need to bear in mind here, you can see the different types of work groups and projects that we have that we could choose to select from here. And there's one key difference between the two here that you need to understand. So with a project here, essentially what we will have are start dates and end dates for the project. So you have that predefined time parameters on a project. And now what you have with those time dates are any tasks associated to that project. Those tasks cannot go beyond the end date of the project. So you have those time parameters. Whereas here with a work group, you don't need to have a start or an end date. It's simply a closed area where you can store and capture information, if it's tasks, if it's documents, or maybe a communication area. And what we heavily see work groups used for are for each department. So you might have a work group for every single department inside your company, and a department really isn't going to have a start or an end date. Whereas with projects, you have those predefined start and end points that you can then use when you're wanting to set up all of the information associated with your project. So let's select the project type there in the system. And that then takes us to add some information now about the project. So first of all, we can add the project start titles and also a description. So if I wanted to really add as much information as I need about the project, I can add that into the system. Okay, so we can give this a title. Okay, and then if you want to add a description, you can add a description into there like so. And you can see further down here as well, you can choose an icon. So this is the icon that will show on the project title page. And you can also choose a theme. So this is essentially the background image when we're inside the project, so we can see the background of what that would look like. Or you could add your own custom theme if you want to add maybe your own corporate identity onto the project. So we've added a title and a description, but then we also have extended parameters as well. So this is where we can add those start and end dates for the project. So these are the time parameters we've just mentioned. And that's important because what we will do now is any tasks associated with this project, those tasks have to have end dates by the 30th of June. They can't go beyond into July as we have the project end date there. You can also add a subject, so this is useful for reporting purposes if you want to have different types of subjects. And also you can add tags as well. So if you wanted to tag maybe what department's working on these projects, you could then use this for reporting purposes in your reporting tools, which we'll look at later on. Okay, and we can see here the different features. So this is a really, really nice area of the Bitrix system. So essentially for every single project you run, you can turn on and turn off different functionality. So for this project, we want to manage tasks. So I can turn on the tasks feature. If I'm going to store some documents as well, I'm going to turn on the drive area. So you can really customize exactly the level of functionality you have on every single project in your Bitrix system. And over time, maybe you want to add or turn on or turn off different features. As an admin here, I can come back and customize this. So you don't need to worry about choosing the features straight away. You can come back and turn on the different types as and when required. So you can really keep the project as clean or simplified as you required. Or if you want to have as much data and information in there or with different tools, you could turn those on as well. Then we can choose different types of projects. Okay, inside here, so you can inside here add external users. So if you wanted to be able to invite external people, such as a client, for example. So a lot of people use projects to manage their clients' projects in the system. You could turn on the external user feature, and then you could invite them into their project as well. Okay, so we've got all of the information inputted now for our project. You can then choose the privacy type. So this is essentially what will show in the workgroups and projects dashboard here. So if it's public, anyone would be able to view and enter the project. If it's private, you can only have access to that project if you've been invited in, or if you can then also request access to be invited into that project. And that access would then go to the project owner to either invite you in or to actually if the person may be not required to access that project, they could just dismiss the invitation. And then we also have hidden. So this means essentially no one other than the users who are accessing the project would be able to see this project inside the workgroup and project dashboard there. So you wouldn't even be able to request an invite to the project. And so once we've chosen the privacy type, we can then select the people who are going to be working on the project. So you've got different layers of ownership here. So you can have project owners, then you can go and have the project moderators, which are very much like your middle layer of management. And then you can add the additional staff who are going to be working on the project as well. So here you've got the rest of the team members on the project. Okay, and now that has been created. So now the project has been set up, and we saw how we just turned on the two different tools to begin with, so tasks and the drive area. So you can see across the top here, those two different tools have now been added to the project. And I can see in the About Project area, all the different members of the team who are invited into the project. So that's how we can manually create a new project inside our Bitrix system. But now let's take a look at a project in more detail. So let's take a look at a project that's currently live and running inside the system. So again, I'm going to show you there using the filter and search tool across the top, and we can then enter the project like so. Okay, so inside the project, so across the top here, we can see there's quite a few additional tools we have inside this project. So we're able to access that information from in the menu across the top here. Now, one thing I just want to point out before we go into this in a lot of detail, I just want to show you the roles and permissions that you can set up on your projects. And this is available for every single project that you have inside Bitrix. So you can really customize here the permission settings on every project that you run inside your Bitrix system. And we saw earlier on when we were adding people to the project, we had those different layers of ownership. So we had the project owner, we had moderators, and we also had any other participants. Now, based on that user role, we can then add access and permissions based on those roles. So let's say, for example, who is able to create tasks on this project. So here we can see I'm allowing, maybe it could be only the project owner is able to add those actual tasks to the project. Or we might say actually only the owner and the moderators, who are the assistants here on the project, are able to create those tasks. So for every single rule here, so from the drive space to conversations to the wiki pages and knowledge bases, you can really customize and go very granular on the permissions for that project. And like I say, for every single project you run, you can customize the permissions. So every single project essentially could have unique permissions inside the system. Okay, so if we just go through then some of the modules here of our BizTech project. So first of all, we'll just go into tasks, because that really is the fundamental area for any project. So here we can see all of the tasks associated with this project. And again, I'm an administrator here, so I'm able to do this, but to show you the flexibility within the Bitrix system. So here we can see the tasks, and this is looking at tasks within the list view here. And again, this whole list table can be completely customized. So I could change the UI here. I can customize what information I want to show here, so that you can see there's a huge number of different data points that we could pull into this list view here. And we'll see throughout all of these different views of tasks, you can completely filter and drill down into any information. So I might want to look at maybe all of the tasks based on responsible person, for example. So I might want to just see those, so I can see Mary's tasks here that she's responsible for. You can use this filtering tool to really drill down into any activity. So this is looking at the tasks here in the list view. So if I wanted to create a new task, I can just click on the Create Task button here, and it will open up the task page. So inside here, we add the title for the task, and then you can add a description. And then what we can do, we can add a lot more data and information. So if you wanted to add different checklists into the task, you can add those different items that maybe need to be ticked off and marked off as we progress the tasks through the system. So I can add all of this information. I can even add different participants into the checklist here for who's responsible for these different items of the checklist. So there's lots of data points you could add into the actual task itself. And then we just need to choose who's responsible for the task and add any additional participants who are going to be working on those different checklist items. So that's one way we can add the tasks into the project. And you can see in the bottom right-hand corner here, you can also save this task as a template. So there may be very repetitive tasks that you have to complete at certain time parameters. So we have a lot of accountants who use Bitrix for project management. So every month you've got the same tasks that have to be repeated. If it's month-end payroll, for example, that has to be done every single month. We could use create a task template, and then through here we can just select that template like so, and then that automatically populates the tasks with all of the necessary information and even the checklist items that need to be completed. So that's something to really bear in mind. Task templates are really useful to save you time inside your projects. Okay, so that's a look in the list view. So we'll just go through the different views here of our project tasks. So here, this is the Kanban view. So for every project you run, you can set up the different stages for your Kanban display to progress and move those tasks around. So let's say I can move a task here into the testing phase, so we can easily see and dissect what stage every single task is at inside the system. And with all of these views here, all you have to do to open up that task is click on the task itself, and it will open up all of the information about that task. So here I can see all the information about this task. And what's really nice is you've got this communication page. So for every single task you're working on, you're able to have very focused communications in every single task. And we find this is really useful. So rather than having endless email chains or conversations or meetings, which can really waste time, essentially, using the comments page here, you're able to have all of that communication saved. And then the users are able to easily see the latest conversations that have taken place on each individual task. Okay, so we can add that task. I can add and tag my colleagues into the comments as well. So now Mark Smith will be notified about that comment on his Bitrix system. So you can see here, it's not just for task management, it's really useful for having communications as well associated to those tasks inside the system. So that's looking at the Kanban view. So again, you can customize those stages that you progress through here. Those are not the mandatory stages here. So if I wanted to change maybe reviewing stage, maybe it's not quite right for this particular project, I could actually change this, and we could put this back to, let's call this the feedback stage. If we're getting feedback from our client, for example, I can update that. So it's really easy to personalize your projects on the Bitrix system. Okay, so now moving on to look, this is the deadline view. I'd say this is my favorite view, really, I think, for the tasks, because what will happen here is Bitrix will automatically put the task into the correct time slot here. So you can see across the top, again, we're using stages, but these are fixed. So we can see here what is due today, and it looks at the task deadline. So I can see here what's due today, what tasks are due this week on the project, what's overdue, and what's coming up maybe in the future here. So I think this view is really useful because instinctively, straight away, it allows you to prioritize what needs to be worked on inside this project. So I can see here we've got these two tasks that are overdue. Instantly, you need to start working on those tasks. So every single morning for your project management meetings, the deadline view here, it really gives you that high-level overview of the project instantly. You don't need to waste time having meetings to decide what stages a task is at. I can see with the deadline view here what has not been completed and now what is overdue on the project. So we can now start to work on those instantly in the system. Okay, then we also have what we call the planner view here. So as you can see, we can move tasks around inside the system. So this is very different to the Kanban view because here I can create my own stages. This is very much my own personalized project management view. So here I can see all of the tasks that I'm working on, and I can create the different stages for my planner view here. This doesn't impact any of the user on the project. So every single user can have their own personalized planner view. And a few of the views here, so we've got a calendar view. So this is looking at the deadlines of the tasks. So I can see those based in a calendar format as well. So I can see here what's due towards the end of the month and the start of June. And then we also have the Gantt chart view. So this gives you that really high level overview of the tasks inside the project. And I can see here the red line indicates the deadlines on the tasks. So I can easily see what is now overdue and what is close to being impacted, maybe potentially passing the deadline. So all of these different views within the project really allow you to have your own style as to how you want to manage projects and the tasks connected with the project. There isn't really one way within the Bitrix project. You can really decide which is your preferred way of managing all of the tasks connected to the project. And later on, we'll take a look at automation. So for example, if a task does become overdue and passes its deadline, we'll see how we could use automation rules to actually automate the notifications to people, maybe change who's responsible for that task to try and get that task back on track. So Bitrix has lots of power here to really enable you to ensure as many tasks are completed within time on the project. Okay, so let's look at tasks on the project, and some different tools here as well, which are really useful to use within projects. So first of all, we have the feed section. And the best way to describe the feed really on a project, this is like a personalized news feed board solely for this project. So any changes that are made on tasks, any comments or communications, all of this information will be added into the feed. And you can see here we can add comments back. So that comment we added onto that task, that has fed into the feed here. So really all of the latest conversations or communications that take place in the project, those will be added into the feed section. Or let's say if you wanted to send out a new message, rather than having to send out endless emails, you could use the messaging system here on the feed to send a message out to the project team. Okay, so I can add this into the message here, and now that's going to be sent out to everyone in the project. Maybe if you wanted to add a document, for example, you could add that information into here as well. So rather than, like I say, using emails, you don't have to do that anymore. You could just use the feed section and post those messages into the project, and people could then like and comment back on these. So you can have all of the communication essentially on the project. It can be synced and saved inside the project itself. Okay, then we've got some drive space. So this is really useful if you've got lots of documents associated to a project. You can add those documents into the system here from a variety of different tools, either from your local computer or from external applications. And then what we can do is we can set access rights on those documents. So inside here, for example, what we may want to do is anyone internal is able to have full access on this document. But if you're an external user, so I mentioned earlier on in the webinar, you might have your customers who come into the project as an example. We're just going to give them read access to that document, or actually there may be a document where it's just for internal use and we don't want any external users to have access to that document. So I could save and update that access rights now, and no external user would even see that document now in the drive area. So you can set up very secure permissions through the drive space. Okay, another really popular feature is the calendar. So for every project you run in the system, you can set up area to store all of the different meetings and events connected with the project. And inside here, if I want to set up a new event, for example, I can add this into the system. I can see if I'm inviting specific people to this event, I can see their availability for the meeting here. So let's add this into the project group like so. So again, really every type of information associated with the project, whether it's a task, whether it's a document, whether it's a message to certain people, if it's an event, all of this information can be saved inside the project itself. So you've really got one true view of the project using the project management tools in Bitrix. And then you can also do instant communication through the project. So here you've got a live chat system with every single user on the project, and that's instant chats, but you can also do video calls and voice calls with the members of your project team. So there's lots of different ways you can then communicate amongst your staff on the project. Okay, so that's a look at one individual project, but let's just go into the tasks and projects area, because inside the tasks and projects area, essentially we can get a summary across all of the different projects that are being worked on amongst our Bitrix system. So here in the project area, I can see every single project I'm associated with. And this is really nice. You get a performance score. Okay, so this is, again, a very high level. You need to be able to interpret information really quickly. Again, this is another tool that Bitrix has that allows you to interpret how well those projects are progressing. So this performance score essentially works out based on the tasks inside the project, how many have been completed on time, or how many are in progress still within their deadline. So this gives you that analysis to see how well the tasks within the project are being completed on time. So anything here, say at 0%, we've got a big area for concern because those tasks are not being completed on time. So that's where we can focus our reporting and management to get those projects back on track. And then we also have a supervising section. So you also have a performance score for each individual user as well. So if you're a manager, rather than analyzing the projects at a project level, you might want to drill down to the individual users of your department, for example. So inside here, I can see the performance and efficiency score for every single user. And it may be, let's say, for example, here we've got a filtering tool. So I just want to see every user who has an efficiency score below 50%. This is really where we need to focus our management and help these people get their tasks back on track to improve the projects. So I could drill down into this information. So it's something that's really important to use. It's using these reporting tools. And we also have a reporting wizard inside the Bitrix system. So inside here, essentially you can create your own reporting dashboards from scratch. So it may be actually, I want to analyze how much time we spent on different clients' projects across a time period. So here I can see the amount of time we spent on 3 different projects for a given reporting period. So if maybe I'm going to bill my client for the time we've spent on their project, I can build these high-level dashboard reports to easily dissect the information that comes in from the project. And this task time we can record directly on the task. Okay, so inside our projects, you're able to record time on tasks either using the timer or using the manual connection. So if I go into a task, you've got the start and finish button here. So I can click start and that will now start recording time on the task. Or if I maybe manually, if I need to come back into a task to add some time, I can come into here and add that time like so. Okay, and that time will now be logged against the tasks. That's how we can add time onto tasks. And those are a look there at some of the reporting tools available inside the project management tools of Bitrix24. Okay, so let's just see if we have any questions before we go through to the next stage of our webinar today. Okay, so can you make group video calls on the project? So yeah, absolutely. If we just go back into one of our projects, we saw how we could use the instant chat tool to communicate with our team on the project. So if we just go, if I just show you there, sorry, so back into the project, if we go to the chat area, then inside here, I can do a video call with the users on the project like so. Okay, so you can do video calls with the members of your project team directly through the system, or if you use Zoom, you can connect your Zoom and it can open up a Zoom meeting inside the system as well. So there's 2 different options there for video calls amongst your project team. Okay, so now moving on. So we've seen so far how we can create a project manually. So how we can add users to the project, choose the tools we want to set up. But really, we want to take that to the next level. And we really want to encompass and use the power of automation inside Bitrix to be able to have those projects created automatically inside the system. And one way I'm going to show you this today, it's a really popular way. We set this up for a lot of our clients who use the Bitrix system, and it's specifically inside the CRM system. And this is a very popular use case for automation inside Bitrix. So Within the CRM system, if you're common, if you know how to use the CRM, you'll know how you can create different stages inside deals. So we use this to close new sales opportunities for our clients. And really a very common use case is once a deal has been won inside the system, you then want to create a project in the project management area and create specific tasks that then have to be completed. Now we've won this new business with a client. So really the CRM system and the project management tools of Bitrix, they need to talk to one another to actually automate processes. And what we can do inside deals and also leads is we can set up automation rules. Now we can see here we've got a stage called deal 1. So that's where the client has agreed to proceed, and now we've won that new client work inside the system. And what we can do is if I go into the workflow designer tool, we can then automatically have a project created in the project management area for our project management team now to start working on the client's new tasks. Now, this feature here that you're seeing, this is using the workflow designer tool. So you need to have at least the professional cloud edition of Bitrix. So if you're on a standard cloud or anything below this, you're not going to be able to access this tool. You need to have at least a professional cloud license or any self-hosted edition. But essentially within here, what we have is we've created an automation. So as soon as the deal is marked as won, we're automatically creating a project in the project management area of Bitrix. And we're creating and bringing specific people into the project there. And then below here, you can see the different tasks that are going to be created inside the project. So there may be very specific tasks that no matter what client is now a new customer, there are specific tasks that simply have to be completed for that client. So using a workflow tool like this, it can save significant amounts of time. It can stop any human error because we are essentially mirroring the exact same information that has to be added to the project for every single project. So it can reduce any human error in the system. And it also means you can start working on the client's project in a faster time. So you can then start getting feedback from the clients and getting the project completed as fast as possible. So let's go into the deal. And now let's actually look at how this works in principle. So we're going to go into a deal here. So TechCo Cloud Training. So we've got a project here that we are about to win with this customer. So we're going to move this now to deal is 1. And this TechCo Cloud Training, what we're going to see now is it's going to create a project in the project management area of Bitrix. And it's going to now bring specific people and create specific tasks that we now need to start working on. So really, this shows how we can connect the sales side of Bitrix with the project management side. So your departments in sales and project management, they can be interconnected. So you can see here now, we've won the deal and we've got some automation set up. So it's automatically now created some tasks in the system here. And if we go into our work groups area, and let's just search TechCo. Okay, and we can now see that TechCo Cloud Training project has been created inside the system. So we can see here today at 4:38, which is the time right now, it created the project, and you can see here it's created the tasks inside the system. And now we've already assigned people to those tasks. So we can now start working on those tasks instantly. And it's even brought through the checklists that need to be completed on the tasks. So this just shows some of the power of automating processes inside the project management areas of Bitrix, and really how we can connect the sales teams and the project management teams and reduce human error. So now already the team can start working on this customer's project essentially directly through the project management area of Bitrix. So that's showing how we can automate the actual projects. But what we can also use automation for are on the tasks itself. So if we go into the tasks and projects area, for every single project you set up here, we can create automation rules based on those Kanban stages that we looked at earlier on. So if we go back into the BizTech project Kanban stages here that we've got set up, we can set up automation rules on every single stage. So inside here, we can click on the create button and we can choose the different types of automations that we set up, whether that's changing the status of the task. It could be changing who's responsible, for example. And we can also set up triggers, and a trigger will automatically update what stage the task is at inside the system. And I think this is a really nice example. It's a really common example as to when you would use a mixture of triggers and automation. So for example, here, we have a trigger set up when the task becomes overdue. So when the task is not completed by the deadline of the task itself, we're automatically moving the task to the urgent stage. So as soon as that task is not completed by the deadline, whatever stage it's at, it will move to the urgent stage. At the urgent stage, we've got an automation set up here. So we're going to be changing who is responsible for the task. So it's going to go to the more senior project manager to get that task back on track. And then what we may also do at the urgent stage, we might want to send a notification to certain people to make them aware that this task has now hit the urgent stage. So we can set up a notification here to go to certain members of our project management team, or it could be certain departments, etc. Okay, so you can see how using a mixture here of triggers and automations on your tasks, Bitrix can really help you to make sure you get these tasks back on track as quickly as possible. So using automations on project creation and then using automations on the individual tasks as well can save you so much time and really help to make sure your projects are completed within their set timeframes. Okay, so moving on, so we've seen how we can create those projects. We've seen all the different tools that can be used to manage projects, from tasks to drive space to calendars. But what we can also do is, as we've mentioned throughout today's webinar, is we could also invite our external users, such as clients and suppliers, into our projects. And this feature is available on both the cloud and the self-hosted system. So here we can see an external user's view of their Bitrix system. So it's very different to a standard user within your organization. So you can see on the left-hand side here, this client has access to 2 projects inside the Bitrix system. And if I just go back to the front-end user, you can see how different this looks. So from seeing the CRM to marketing modules to the employees database, the external user does not have access to any of those pieces of functionality. So their permissions are very structured in what they're able to access. So they would only see access to the projects you've invited them into. And as we mentioned earlier on, you can then set the permissions within the project. So if you wanted them to only view certain documents, for example, we could set those access rights and decide what level of access they have actually directly on tasks as well. So you can really control, you don't need to be concerned about their access rights. You can really granularize what permissions an external user can access. Now, one big difference between the cloud and the on-premise edition of Bitrix, if you wanted to brand up the external portal where the client logs into, what widgets they have access to, and the whole branding of the system here, you would need to have a self-hosted system, or self-hosted / on-premise, to be able to add your own corporate branding to the customer portal. And that's a really popular feature. So when you're inviting your clients into a portal, it can be branded up. We can really simplify what information they have access to. So it becomes a really powerful buying tool as well to get your clients to work with you if you have your own customer portal. And that's what really we can do with this self-hosted edition of Bitrix. Okay, that brings us on quite nicely to actually just go through some of the other self-hosted benefits. So I mentioned there how you can have a branded portal. So with the self-hosted system, We can remove all the Bitrix branding, strip that out, and you can have your own corporate branded portal where the external user logs into. And then actually, once they've logged into this system, we've got that third point there, which is page customizations. We've got access to the source code with the self-hosted system. So we can really change the whole layout. So the menu items, any external widgets, really the whole look and feel of the customer portal can be customized with the self-hosted system. And we can also create more advanced automation. So if you wanted to maybe create an automation based on an external trigger from another system, we have that kind of capability with the self-hosted system. And we also can create additional modules. So if you wanted to maybe create your own task or project management dashboard, if the feature's not quite how you need it to be with the standard reporting tools in Bitrix, with the self-hosted system, we could create your own external dashboards inside the system as well. Okay, so here's a selection of our up and coming webinars. So that's the end of today's Perfect Project Management webinar. And here is a selection of those webinars coming up. If you want to register for those webinars, please do go to interface.com/webinars, where you can register. We are here every other Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time with those webinars. And in summary of today's Perfect Project Management webinar, we've seen how we can manage projects inside work groups and really encompass all of the information we need on those projects. So from all of the task information, but we can also store communications, drive information on documents, calendars, and internal chats. Everything about a project can be saved inside its own secluded area. And then we've seen how we can manage tasks in really powerful ways with lots of different views, and we can automate the creation of those tasks using some of the automation powers and task templates. It's also possible there to collaborate with the client. So bringing the client in as an external user, we're then able to communicate and work with them on their projects directly inside the Bitrix system. And then we've seen how we can automate and integrate with the CRM system of Bitrix using the workflow designer tools. We can really save time and reduce human error, automatically creating those projects inside the project management area. And then we've seen the reporting tools. So using project efficiency scores and the reporting wizard, we can create our own reports of the information on our projects inside Bitrix. Thank you very much for joining today's Perfect Project Management webinar. If you do have any questions in the meantime before our next webinar, please do contact us, sales@interface.com. One of our team will be happy to set up a call with you to discuss your requirements and questions in more detail. Thank you for your time today. I look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye for now.